Today, I want to talk about something that you don't even know we're going to talk about. Laughter. Do you like to laugh?
No.
Do you think there are actually people out there that don't like to laugh? I bet there are. Serious, really super serious
like
people.
maybe Jeffrey Dahmer. Like,
You'd have to be an axe murderer not to...
yeah.
Oh, he was worse than an axe murderer.
Yeah.
No, but I think might be very studious, serious, and they
People
think
take themselves too seriously.
Too serious. Yeah. But I don't know if you ever looked up or read about or anything, but laughter is not just like a fun, cool thing. There are physiological, psychological,
the vagus nerve and how it affects
mental,
your body.
and physical even benefits. Like it releases. I don't know what. Maybe I should have figured this out before we started this episode.
Yeah, it's it's either serotonin or dopamine. Little hits of that.
Yeah, so I mean, who doesn't like to?
Serotonin, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe it is serotonin. I was thinking of. Okay, let's just not even go there. We don't.
Yeah, it's been a while since I worked on my dissertation after my PhD.
Yeah, when you were really serious.
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone I know loves telling or hearing a funny story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that I'm a different person in that I worked with this guy a long time ago that said, I came home from this business trip and it was not fun. I had ended up with strep throat. And when I got home, Jamie had a sore throat too. She was with your dad. And, nobody that him or his, never mind. No one figured out that they should take her to the doctor because she had a rash all over her body. She had scarlet fever. But anyway, so this is how bad it was. I had this terrible sore throat, and the hotel I was at was in downtown San Francisco, this little boutique hotel. They ran out of hot water. So I had to take cold showers. It was just this whole...
While sick,
and it was also in the theater district, which I learned it's kind of a cool place to stay, but it doesn't shut down at all.
Yeah.
And they had, I'm pretty sure the windows were made out of cellophane. So I didn't sleep all night. It was terrible. It was like 3 nights or something I was there before I finally figured out I got to go home. My throat's on fire. But anyways, when I got home and back to work, a week later, and I'm telling the story to these guys at work, it's all funny, and I'm thinking at the time it wasn't even funny. What is wrong with me, Sean? But somehow when I was able to look back on it, I had some funny stuff to tell. There was this lady I could see across from my window. There was kind of like this courtyard, like the hotel was like not even a U, it was like a square, and then there was a square in the middle. So you could see across to someone's window if they had it open. And I explained what this lady looked like, and it was all this funny thing. And this guy I worked with, all of a sudden he stopped, and he looked at me and he goes, "You're like a female Seinfeld." He goes, "You find humor in everyday life." So I've realized now that not everyone's like me.
Yeah.
So maybe some people don't think life is funny. I don't know. I think it's funny all the time.
I take a comedic angle to pretty much every single thought that I have, and it makes me a lot happier. I mean,
how could it not?
Yeah, it's like even I was ingesting a lot of political podcasts, listening to talking heads and stuff for a period of time there, and I noticed I was feeling more anxiety and more stressed. And now I pretty much listen to comedy podcasts, basically comedians sitting there talking smack, making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And I find that I'm a little more joyous throughout the day, just getting those little hits of happiness from people, and it's focused on humor has made me for sure feel better in general.
I think there's no question about it. I was doing the same thing, and there's certain things I had to just not listen to, or even if there are people agreeing with me, it's still, there's just too much stress in it. And I'm not a social media scroller, but lately I have been, because I just want those little clips of Nate Bargatze's because he's just funny, and it's innocent funny, he's not really making too much fun of anyone other than his wife and himself. But it's not serious funny. It's not like some of the late night talk show people. It's still political.
They take themselves so seriously.
And they're just making fun of people and being rude. You don't have to do that to...
Which there is some funny, like you're with your friends in certain settings. Except my friends and I talk a lot of crap to each other, and it's a term of endearment, a form of
course.
But I know what you mean with Nate. There's no. It's a victimless crime with his comedy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines in any stand-up, he doesn't curse, right? We've talked about this.
Yeah.
He wants to be as clean as possible so anyone and everyone can listen to him. He has that line where he's talking about the word sucks, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't even say the word sucks. In fact, that word stinks." And just that line alone, that I heard that 4 years ago, whatever. I still bring that up. It's hilarious.
And he has a great delivery.
Yeah, he's from Tennessee. He's got a little bit. He does a little slow, kind of a dry, slow burn relief. Yeah, he's very.
I just think but I think some people also can't laugh at themselves. That's one thing I just mentioned. He does a good job of making fun of himself. And some of us are more naturally self-deprecating. And I think because, I don't know, because I'm Irish, Scottish, whatever, I think that's part of how we sort of tend to
You've got to be Scottish and Irish because according to my blood test, I'm 76%. So.
Well, I'm 98% or something like that. UK, 98,
Yeah.
whatever. So, yeah. But I think there's that maybe some of us are just naturally more like that. So I'm not saying that you should put yourself down or, say bad things about yourself all the time. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, but there's humor everywhere.
But can't we? But sometimes we can't be light enough because our pride gets in the way, or we're too embarrassed. It's like, oh, I can't laugh at myself, and I think about a couple of things. Embarrassing moments, and one of them, oh my gosh, it's funny to say now that I think about it. But so remember when I would work at these shows that Pamela's friend Carolyn had, and they were those clothing shows, and they did them at charity events and things like that. So I would help her with it, and then she'd pay me with a bunch of these high-end items of clothing. But it was back-breaking work. I mean, you're on your feet, and you have to dress nice, so you're in heels, and my feet are I have trouble with my feet anyway. And so we're at this really nice resort, and it's all kind of in the front part of this long part. The windows are all like here, all along here. So at the end of the day, all the vendors are breaking down their stuff. There's all sorts of different types of people there breaking down all their setups. So I have to walk all the way past all of them like this, all the way, then down this hallway to the bathroom. So that day I was wearing this skirt. You know, like what chiffon is, that fine little, what's that thin fabric that's almost like see-through, but it was black and it had all these layers of it. So there was all this stuff to this skirt. It was really this cool skirt. So I'm walking back past all the same people. Only this time they're all looking at me and they're like kind of smiling at me. And I'm thinking, maybe I don't look so bad after all. I thought I looked like a haggard after all this whole day of work. I'm kind of strutting now. I'm thinking, I'm like waving at people, walking. I'm walking the runway, right? And I get all the way back. We're the very last. Get all the way back there, and all of a sudden, Carolyn just, oh my God! She starts laughing. Sorry, and she just is pointing at me, and I go, what? She goes, your skirt. And I go, I looked at it. It's fine. My entire back of my skirt was in my underthings. The entire skirt.
So you tucked your skirt into your underwear
and strutted all the way back
100 yards in front of the. Oh yeah, that's.
And people are looking at me. I told someone this story recently. They go, why didn't someone tell you? My God. But anyway, the point is that you get back and you go, you either run and hide. I laughed my ass off. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, what was embarrassing? What am I going to
do? There's so many. Yeah, there's so many situations where, like I have something kind of. It was embarrassing for someone else. I can tell something embarrassing about myself, but you just made me think of this. I'm at the airport and I walk into the bathroom and I turn around and there's a woman probably in her late 60s.
In the bathroom?
And she's standing there and she looks at me with the most angry, indignant face. And she goes, what are you doing in here? And I went, well, it's the men's bathroom. So I was kind of wondering the same thing. And she looked around all mad.
Did you see the urinals?
She starts to argue with me like she's mad at me. And finally I just went, lady, come on.
Urinals.
She turned around and scoffed and walked out at me. And I just remember thinking that how funny that she couldn't laugh.
Yeah.
She couldn't go, oh shit, that was crazy, and walk out.
I would have laughed still at myself.
And her version of that story was probably, this guy tricked me into the, yeah. Oh, lady, I was walking into the bathroom. I turned around and you're in there challenging me as to what I'm doing. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I understand that you get kind of embarrassed because one time I was riding my bike and Rich had changed my tires and they didn't have a whole lot of tread. He just got a different kind, because I ride on the street and trails around here. But I used to be able to kind of go down those, the big thick rocks that they have in the gardens around here.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be able to go, through that just fine. Maybe fishtail a tiny bit, right? So I head down into it and my bike goes, I don't think so. And my tires go like this, completely turn. I smack my shins on the bike and I fall. It must have looked ridiculous and hideous.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, the first thing I did was look around to see if anybody saw.
Oh yeah. No, I got a good one for you. This is I just thought it probably the most viscerally embarrassed I've ever been in my life. It was I was in high school. I think I was a freshman, and our weight room and gym was like you had to go down this big flight of stairs down this long hallway because it was an old building. It's new now, but and it was raining like crazy. Imagine that. And when you're going up those stairs, a lot of people are coming from outside, and everyone's legs are wet and stuff. So there's water on the stairs, and there's a girl who's a year older than me, who I thought was really cute, and I was kind of trying to look cool and walk cool. And she's 2 or 3 stairs behind me, and I step in one of those puddles, and I'm wearing gray sweats, and I fall, but I catch that hand railing, and I'm like swinging around under the hand railing like a cartoon, and I get up to like kind of get back to my feet and fall backwards again, doing it, and then I realize I've dunked my gray sweatpants in this like mud boot water.
Which you absolutely love dirt, Sean.
Oh, yeah. And I turn around thinking, like, maybe it wasn't that bad. And she is right behind me, hysterically laughing in my face. And I don't think I ever spoke to her again. That was the, like, final interaction I had with her. When I just absolutely, it was a joke. It was like on ice. I could not get my feet. Yeah, that was.
But think about this, though, since we're talking about humor. Why do we laugh at other people's misfortunes? There's whole videos of like people crashing on their bikes or, and why is that funny?
Yeah, I don't know. I got kicked out of a math class in 7th grade one time because we had this nasty, crotchety old teacher, and she was walking. She had just kind of berated us for whatever. She was just being mean, and she was walking, and right after berating us, she just tripped on the flat ground.
Maybe she deserved that laughter.
And I went, couldn't help it. Just came out, and she blew a gasket. You laugh at an old woman almost kicked me out of her classroom. And even then, I get to the principal's office, and he's like, "What happened?" And I told him, she screamed at all of us. She tripped, and I accidentally blurted out a little laugh. And he was just, he actually kind of chuckled, and he was like, "All right, just hang out here till class is over."
Hey, speaking of school, did it ever happen to you where you start laughing and you couldn't stop, and you're in class and you're gonna get kicked out, and you can't stop?
Oh, I have a good one for that. Nick Vexler, you remember Nick?
Yeah.
We were sitting in film session, so this is the Monday after you played football on a Friday night. We'd have Saturday. We had a Saturday practice at like 7 a.m. Coach did that so that all the guys wouldn't go out and party and stuff. Didn't work. But then you'd go practice, and then you go sit in this film session, and you had to watch back the game that you just played in and give yourself a grade. So it's like kind of a pretty serious moment. The whole team's in there. On our varsity team was like 70 something people and like 15 coaches, and this is my senior year, and I'm a starter, and Nick and I are whispering to each other whether we think the team's going to be good after we leave or not, because there's not that many linemen that are big left on the team. And I was like, no, there's more than you think. I mean, the whole time they're whispering. And Nick goes, they just don't have enough fatties to win. So I'm already, when he said fatties to win, I'm already like, and I was one of the fatties, right? I was like, so I'm already starting to chuckle. So I start naming off players, and there's this one kid whose last name is Gubis, which is already
the poor kid,
already tough in itself. But I go, and don't forget about Gubis. And Nick, like he's Count Orlok, goes, oh, Gubis, just in the middle of film session, and then I look over, and his face is in his shirt, shaking. I sat there for 15 minutes, going, just trying to hold him. And I still to this day remember that, just the way he said it, because it was a moment where if I started laughing, I might have gotten attacked. They might have dragged me out of the room and beat me in front of the team. I mean, you can't just crack up in the middle of film session. I'm pretty sure we lost the game the day before, too.
Oh, yeah, and that's definitely not to be laughed at.
Coach Bland was a big dude and a serious guy. He'd have been furious, but I could not hold back. It took me so long to swallow.
And it's usually the silliest things like this or some,
He just said the kid's name weird, like he was like a, Dracula or something, and it just hit in there. And I was already kind of laughing from the previous thing he'd said. So yeah, that really, man, I never forgot that. That was 20 years ago, and it still makes me laugh.
But don't you feel almost like right now, as you're telling me that story, I'm almost feeling envious. Like I want to have I don't remember the last time I laughed. I laugh all the time. I make it a point every day. There's probably a day that does not go by in this house that we don't laugh about something. And it's usually some minor little silly thing, but to laugh that hard and that deep, every single person knows how good that feels.
Yeah, yeah, and there's definitely something to that. Like I know you remember Andy Ferris, who's one of my first friends a long time ago. I met him when I was like 9. Andy, when we would be sitting around bored, it's raining, no one wants to go outside in Seattle. Andy figured out he would try to find little ways to uplift everyone's spirit, much to his credit. But one of the things he would have us do is you would stare each other in the face and fake laugh, but you're not allowed to move your mouth. So you're just staring at each other going,
I did not laugh.
And how no, you're making a laugh sound.
But you can't.
You can't move, you can't make a facial expression. So you're just staring at another person. But what that ended up doing was making them laugh, which made you laugh. And next thing you know, there's 8 morons sitting around in a living room, howling laughing because someone started a fake.
I've actually said that people should do that. You could literally, Rich and I have done it. We just went, we did a fake laugh, and then pretty soon we're both cracking up.
Yeah, and you can't explain why. Yeah, that added an element.
Let's do it.
That added an element. Oh no, it's insane looking when you do it.
Okay, let's do it.
See? It's absolutely insane looking. To not move your face at all while you're laughing.
But don't you think that's a great, I mean, God bless Andy, because I think if people are going through difficult things like I was through with Jamie's addiction and all the stuff we've been through and all the things that we talk, that everyone goes through. What a great idea.
Yeah.
To just lighten the mood, because it will help you. Will it change your situation? No.
No, but he used to think about stuff like that all the time. Like, how can I elevate this mood? And it was always centered around doing something funny and entertaining. And
yeah,
he was the one who he would do research where we're sitting around bored, and he'd go, okay, everybody draw a paper mustache, cut it out, and paint it, tape it somewhere on the TV, and we'll watch a movie, and every time the mustache lands on someone's face, you get to pick someone to take a drink of their beer or whatever. Just stuff like that.
Oh, this is when you were 21.
Yeah, so he would get...
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, he would get people... He just had these ideas and it always was stuff that would make us laugh, and it always made you feel... Yeah. You're sitting around bored as hell. Like I said, it's rained 100 days in a row. No one wants to go outside. It's 50 degrees outside. There's nothing to do. And he would find a way to make everyone laugh. And the next thing you know, 6 hours would go by.
And everyone had a great time.
You're having a great... And all you did was watch a movie you've seen 16 times and fake laugh at each other. But
what about laughing not when you're bored, not when you're happy? What about laughing when I've been known to laugh at moments when other people would think I should not.
I think it's important to do.
I have a couple of these. When my grandpa died, my mom and I were at this, your grandma and I were at this, at the funeral home. And back then, they typed things up and whatever, the thing was going to go in the paper or something like that. So he goes, okay, well, just go down this hall. You can go look at the chapel where it's going to be. Now, typically people would go into the chapel through a different place, the front doors. But we were back in his office. So he's like, go down this long hallway here, and then you'll see those double doors, and it's right in there, and just go have a look at it. So we're cruising along, Grandma and I, this hallway. And I guess what these doors were along the hallway were all viewing rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the doors was open, and there was someone standing over a body.
Oh, geez.
And I don't know if it was a worker. I don't know. Probably a worker.
Either way, fairly serious moment.
Yeah, but we're cruising along. But what happened was Grandma went, ah! It scared her. And the person looked up. So what did your really mature mom, who at this point was, maybe almost 30 or so, I took off running.
Laughing,
took off running. And then Grandma took off running behind me, and we burst through the doors of this chapel, and we laid on the pews and laughed.
And the rest of the people were like, "Did you here to bury someone?" What the hell's wrong with you?
But we couldn't stop ourselves. Yeah. We couldn't help ourselves.
You probably needed that. It was probably a therapeutic.
Well, okay, so I don't know what's wrong with me when people die, but so when my stepdad, who was my dad, your grandpa,
mm-hmm.
when he died, Grandma and I there once again. We were at this funeral home, and the guy had all this paperwork, and Grandpa's being cremated, and he's telling her this, and, sign this and all that. And we're sitting there, just small talk, And so he goes, now this paper here, this is about the cremation. And he said, so it's basically liability form in case anything goes wrong in the cremation. And I went, well, it's not like anybody's going to, no, like, it's not like you're going to kill him. And he just had this look like, I don't know what to think.
No one's ever said that.
Yeah, I don't know what to think. And Grandma looked at me and we rolled. I mean, we laughed so hard. So then when he left to go make copies of all the papers, he came back in and I go, he was kind of almost still laughing when he came back in. And I go, oh, you want to tell that story, don't you? He goes, I already did.
Straight back and told the squad. Yeah.
Told those people. But that reminds me of laughing in inopportune moments. We didn't laugh when we got the news Jamie died.
Of course.
We weren't laughing when the detective was there.
No.
I doubt it. I mean,
not every single moment is for a laugh. But right. If you can find a moment to sprinkle in a laugh in a sad moment, it does help.
Well, so it reminds me of, we were on a podcast, you and I don't know when it was. You'll have to go back and watch them all to find this moment. But I remember, I don't even know why we were talking about this, but I said, Jamie was shot the first time when she was 18 and it was in August. And isn't it weird, Sean, that it was August 12 years later when she was killed again? And, I was having a kind of a serious moment there about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then without missing a beat, you go, man, August was a bad month for Jamie. And I got to tell you what, I told Aunt Dawn about that yesterday. And because she knew Jamie.
Yeah,
she knows
really
she knows us all. She knows us so long. And she said, absolutely, Jamie would have laughed. Yeah. I said, I can picture, Jamie had a giggle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was infectious. And I could picture Jamie would have laughed. And she always could laugh at herself pretty well, too.
Well, there's a a time and a place, of course, for all things under the sun, right? But those moments sometimes are some of the best, most memorable. Like I mentioned in a previous podcast, my Aunt Tina, who died tragically she was like 47 and her kids were young and, she died of stomach cancer. It's really, really, really terrible thing. But at her funeral, the entire fire department showed up. And I'm not joking when I say we were in this big like church building. There were 750 people at least spilling out the doors of people who wanted to come celebrate her. And each one of them knew her. It was like a really, this is a really deep moment. I'm sitting in the front row as family. It's her husband, her children, her parents, my dad, my Uncle Doug, me, a couple other family members. And we hear all these people piling in and they're singing this song about her moving on. And Uncle Doug looks around, and this is his older sister and his only sister, and he goes, dang, I don't think Dougie's going to get this kind of turnout when he dies. I mean, I still to this day absolutely crack up with that. And a lot of people would say, oh, that's an inappropriate time to make. No, that was what I needed to hear. I'm sitting there baking in misery with everyone else, and he's shown one little spotlight of joy for a moment on that. And I've told that story to David and Michael, who are her sons who passed. Neither one of them was like, I can't believe he would say that at my mother's funeral. They both fracked up. They're like, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
And, then my cousin David goes, I don't think David's getting that turned up.
I know.
And then that's now become kind of a thing, a joke with us. It's like, no, I don't think any of us will.
That's a good one.
Can the three of us combined get that kind of turnout?
No, probably most people won't.
Yeah.
But no, I think it would be one thing if somebody was doing the eulogy and you just started bursting out laughing watching a video or something. That's not what we're talking about. I think too many people are too serious and think things are, let me see, I don't think I'm going to laugh until the day I die because this terrible loss that I've incurred. I think some people literally take that to the point of like my whole life. Yeah.
There's laughter has been proven to be a form of remedy and medicine for a lot of ails. It's why I take a comedic approach to like anything and everything. It's part of it is a survival tactic, right? Like some of it's just that I love to laugh and I think stuff is funny. But in those tense moments, I do always try to think of how can I just put one little...
Yeah, it helps put people at ease.
One little bundle of joy. And, sometimes you miss.
Sometimes you miss and you're standing in that... What did you call that?
Nikki, standing in the bomb.
Standing in the bomb.
Nikki was telling me the other day, I just really need some time off. She's been doing the same job She takes nonstop inbound calls, and she has this thing called adherence, where she has to sit at her desk. So if in an 8-hour shift, it's 7.5 hours, or I guess it comes out to 7.5 hours, where she has to be glued to her desk, and she has to be like over 90-something% perfect on this. It's only an 8-hour day, but she can't get up and go to the bathroom like you can. Stop, take.
She said she had 7 minutes.
7 minutes, right? So she's feeling a little overwhelmed, and she texted me, and this is potentially not funny at all, but she texted me and said, I really just need to find a way to take time off, but I don't have any PTO that I can take for this type of thing. It has to be like a pre-planned thing. I don't have sick leave, whatever. And I said, well, we could fake my death and you could take bereavement. And then I said,
you think it was funny?
And then I said, that's probably not funny to joke about, but I was just trying to, a little levity. And she replied, you are correct. That's not funny to joke about. I'm still glad I made a joke, because
you tried.
Yeah, what the hell? I was trying to make her laugh. It didn't work.
So
sometimes,
what are people going to do? What do people do that are watching or listening and going, okay, this all makes great sense and everything, but I'm just not that kind of person. I don't find things funny. Not everyone's funny. Okay, not everyone's funny. Okay, not everyone's funny. I think I'm funny. You're funny. Rich is not funny, but he has a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
So you can not be funny.
He finds a lot of things funny, and yeah.
Yeah, so you can have a good sense of humor and not be funny.
Yeah.
So there might be people.
Everyone can have a good sense of humor.
I think everyone can. There might be people who think they don't have a good sense of humor, but then I think you're being too serious or not trying to be lighter.
Well, I think the advice I would give to anyone who feels that way is, don't take yourself and life that serious. But the other thing is, don't look to be offended by.
Oh, that's a good one.
Bill Burr has a really great joke where he's up and he is ripping, and I forget what he's talking about. And then he brings up a controversial subject and a few people who it affects directly. All of a sudden, and he goes, see how they pulled back? He goes, everything was hilarious until it was your turn to get made fun of. Now all of a sudden, I'm not making jokes, I'm making statements of fact. So that's a big thing. Like he goes after overweight people all the time. He laid in. There was one day he was going in on. I saw this fat guy eat 2 sandwiches from McDonald's, just chucking them down his gullet like a pelican, and then he scratched his back on the thing that holds up the wall of the thing, and then he gets into the airplane seat, and he's so big, he's like sitting 8 inches in front of me, and I was like, yeah, I'm 3 for 3. He's just talking about me. At that time, I probably was eating McDonald's sandwiches. I absolutely have scratched my back on a pole at the airport, and when I'm sitting next to people, I'm so big, they're like, their shoulders are here, and I'm all the way, and I laughed. He's literally making fun of a person like me specifically, but I was able to find humor in it because it's not an attack on you.
That
He's
is
just trying to make people laugh.
I kind of feel sorry for comedians nowadays because we're in this age of everyone's offended by everything. It drives me nuts. I would hate to be a comedian right now, although some of them just don't care.
They've.
I think it's come back around a little bit.
That's what I was going to say. Is what has happened is laughter and joy has prevailed, because as much as people say that everything's offensive, everything. Actually, in fact, currently comedians are the most successful, having the biggest renaissance they've ever had.
Because people want to laugh.
There was a period of time where people were doing the I'm offended by everything thing. Then COVID hit. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We weren't allowed to do anything. And the sole source of joy, that every sport was shutting down. You couldn't go to live events. Couldn't do any of that. And then all of a sudden, comedy exploded. And people who were offensive comedians have exploded. The Bill Burrs, the Louis C.K.'s, Dave Chappelle goes in on everyone, and he is huge.
Yeah, but I think that a pendulum, everything's like a pendulum in my opinion, where it swings one direction and everyone freaks out, and then it just kind of goes sometimes the other way, and then it just kind of comes back towards center. But I think I like what you just said, though, is that comedy prevailed.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because a politician or because Joe Rogan decided. It's not because of anything other than
it's because we need to laugh.
We can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's something you can't. People want to laugh. They need to laugh. They need humor in their lives. They need laughter. They need joy. They need fun. So I feel like so if you're this kind of person that just doesn't know what to do with this situation, I find it bizarre, but I'm bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find everything funny. Well, not everything. They could get on YouTube and look up comedy of any kind,
mm-hmm.
right? You can there's funny movies.
Yeah.
Everyone knows funny people.
Yeah.
You could get around a funny person.
There are so many, and I just choose not to be offended by anything. There's comedy where you're like, that wasn't funny.
Right.
That sucked.
Yeah,
there's a guy, Anthony Jeselnik. His whole thing is he says the most offensive thing he can in these quick fire jokes. He doesn't really do it for me, but like here's one for you. This is totally offensive to people, but it's clearly a joke. He says, I was walking through a parking lot. It was hot. I saw a baby locked in the back seat of the car. I thought, that's not right. So I threw a rock at the window. Window was down. Fucked up that baby's whole week.
Oh, gosh. Okay, that would be so offensive, yeah. But it's meant to be a joke.
He obviously didn't chuck a rock at someone's baby. He completely made up an absurd thing to get, because you have no idea where he's going. It seems like at first he's going to say, I did something nice, and it turns into I'm a horrible human being who chucks rocks at babies.
But I think that what's interesting about that is that
someone would be offended by a baby that doesn't exist.
Right. People go to comedy shows, though, all the time and get offended. It's like, why would you go to a comedy show if you're going to get offended? Comedians are offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And they meant to be. It's just meant to be funny. But again, you can have it, if you're a sensitive person, you could, like I said,
choose a Nick Bargatze. Choose a.
He's not going to offend anyone to the point where.
And a person who's they're doing observational things about their lives in a clean perspective to try and stuff that anyone can relate to.
There's sitcoms.
There's something funny for everyone.
Right. Okay. For everyone. You've made that point. So I just said sitcoms. There's a show that everyone but me likes. And it was that no, what's the one with the scientists?
That does nothing for me.
Do you know what show I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's not Third Rock from the Sun. It's not 30 Rock. It's
a where they're all
Sheldon.
Yeah, those. Okay, and I mean, Rod Lynn used to tell us, oh, they laugh so hard and everything, and Rich and I tried. We go, I find nothing funny about it. But then, you know what? I like.
But it also has made millions of people laugh.
Right, like I watch King of Queens. I can rewatch reruns. They crack me up. Other people probably don't think it's all that funny. A lot of people like those potty humor movies. They think they're hilarious. I think they're stupid. But I'm in the minority.
There's just there's anything that could make you laugh. Like there's a Sons of Anarchy, not a funny show in the slightest, right? It's basically the Hells Angels turned into a
drama,
violent soap opera. But there's a scene in it where the main character, who is Charlie Hunnam, Jax Taylor's his name in the show, these dirty cops pull him over and like try to steal their bikes, and it turns out they're like running a chop shop. And he tells them, I want you to apologize to each one of my guys for what you've done, because they find the chop shop. And the one cop goes, are you serious? And he elbows the dude in the face and drops him. And then he walks up to the other guy with this huge shit-eating grin, and he goes, you think I'm joking? And for some reason, that scene cracks me up. Like it's such a serious, he just assaulted a cop. But he has this big shit-eating grin, and he goes, do you think I'm joking? And that's not supposed to be funny to other people.
Yeah.
Hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Might be offensive to someone else, but you just find what makes you laugh.
And do it. I mean, I honestly think everyone should make it a goal. You should not go a single day. The sun should not go down without laughing about something, anything. So, okay, so let's close this episode, because I can't remember. I can't tell jokes. I'm a funny person. I can hold court. I can't deliver the joke properly. I can't remember a friggin' joke to save my life. But I know you can.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's your mission, if you choose to accept it. You can't offend a bunch of people. It has to be clean.
Okay.
Okay. And then
we want
to hear that it was funny. I want to see some of those laughing faces.
Sure. Well, you heard the one about the corduroy pillow, right?
Corduroy pillow?
Yeah, it's making headlines everywhere. That one always.
Good.
I got put on the spot in a business meeting. I went in and had to. So I found out as I was walking in the door, basically, that the other two people who had worked on this project, because I was flying in from here to Albuquerque, that they were like, essentially, we don't feel confident presenting this. I need you to do it. I hadn't even seen the slideshow. I walked in that room, they threw it up on the projector, and I did a 1 hour slideshow of slides I'd never seen before. So
as they came up,
come on the screen, and I do a quick scan and go, yeah. So but as I'm leaving the room, they go, okay, well, that was good, but can you tell us a joke? And I told that joke, and it absolutely ripped. So I had that one.
You had that one too?
I cheated. I had that one locked and loaded, but I've got plenty of, there's plenty of good ones out there. You can choose to be offended by it. But like, for example, how did the hipster burn his mouth?
How?
He drank his coffee before it was cool. You know, there's just so many little, and it's just, or Rich's favorite joke. Where does the Lone Ranger take his trash? I've watched some people go, and I've watched other people burst out laughing when I tell them that. So, yeah.
I guess the whole point is laugh. I'm going to put a challenge out there to everyone. I won't know if they do it, but I'd like to know. Make it a goal every single day to at least laugh one time. And if you don't find anything funny in your everyday life, then you got to get on YouTube or something. Yeah, there's
a troop of guys on YouTube. They go by J Stu. This guy Justin Stewart's his name, but it's him and his best friends, and they're all Christian guys, and they're all goofballs, and you know it's the least serious show. Nikki one time saw me watching it, and goes, "These guys are dorks," and I was like, "Yeah, but they're having fun." But anyway, they have like 7.5, 8 million followers. I mean, it's a huge channel, and their whole tagline and the merch they sell is "Laugh Daily." That's it.
Really?
Their whole thing is
I need that shirt.
And so they're constantly being goons and trying to make each other laugh. And they're all just having fun, and yeah, I mean, it just looks like a great.
And you know what? I'll bet you everyone who has something serious in their lives. Everyone does. Everyone has to go to work and pay bills.
And they're all fathers, and they're all husbands, and they're all
But they're making it a point to laugh. I think that's life's hard enough. Life's serious enough.
Yep.
Laugh every single day, and we want to hear from you.